Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to another session of Economy Made Easy. In this session, let's try and understand what is the recent discussion that is appearing in multiple newspapers regarding the concept of GST compensation. Very recently, the 54th meeting of GST Council was conducted, and out of multiple matters that were taken up, one of the very important points of discussion was the idea of a GST compensation. What is the issue all about? Let's understand. Before that, if you are interested in having a comprehensive approach and studying under the best educators for the civil services examination, we have an offer for you. At a price of 24,999,000, that is 24,999 rupees, you will be able to get access to mentorship, you will be able to get access to the mains test series, the books, the classes, live sessions, doubt resolution sessions, etc. If you are interested, please do check out the details in the link provided below. Now, let me start the discussion. In the 54th GST Council meeting, there has been an acceptance to set up the group of ministers GOM, which is headed by Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary, and this group of ministers is headed by the Minister of State Finance, and this will look into the matter of GST compensation cess. Now, what is the idea of a GST compensation cess? Why it has been a point of friction between the center as well as the states, etc. Let's understand that. Point number one, from 1st July 2017, we started implementing the Goods and Services Tax, GST. And with the implementation of GST, what we essentially did was, compared to earlier system where at the central as well as the state level, multiple indirect taxes were implemented and collected. A lot of these taxes, again mind you, indirect taxes were brought under or subsumed under the concept of GST, one nation, one indirect tax. But when you talk about, let's say, the state governments and talk about state governments giving away the power of indirect taxation, the states were concerned about loss of revenues. That is, let's say a state is there, the chief minister of the state having the government here can keep on deciding whatever indirect taxes they want to implement in that particular state, at what rate they want to impose the taxes and collect the tax receipts, and that will keep on varying from one year to the next year according to the requirement they will impose and collect the taxes. So, the concern of the states was, once the center proposed GST, and under GST all these indirect taxes even at the state level were supposed to be subsumed. The states were concerned, what if under GST they will not be able to earn sufficient amount of tax receipts, in essence tax revenues. In order to make GST much more appealing to all the states, in order to ensure that all the states will accept the model of GST, the central government introduced the concept of GST compensation. They introduced the concept of GST compensation. Of course, a bill was introduced, the bill was passed, became an act in 2017, which provided the methodology, which provided the definition of compensation, which provided the duration of compensation to be provided to the states by the central government. Essentially, this was what was followed until very recently by the central government. That is, the base year for the calculation of GST compensation was taken to be 2015 and 2016. Now, what is the idea of a base year in the GST compensation calculation? Under GST, whatever products, that is goods or services, and the tax rates on these which were subsumed, which were earlier under the power of the state governments, On these, whatever taxes were collected by the state governments in the year 15 and 16 was considered as a base. It was considered as a base. And under the GST Council, it was basically decided that from one year to the next year, these tax receipts will increase by 14%. I hope you understand. These tax receipts will increase by 14%. Now, let me take a very simple example here. Imagine according to the formula, that is from one year to the next year, under the GST, the receipts should keep on increasing by 14%. According to the formula, for a particular state, imagine if the formula gave a number of, let us say 100 CR, just a hypothetical calculation here. Let us say the number gave you 100 CR outcome, right? You used a formula and you got 100 CR number. Now, in that state, in this particular year, if the state government ended up earning 80 CR worth of tax receipts under GST, this is what is expected according to the formula, and this is what is collected in that particular financial year by the state government. So, expected was 100 CR and collected was 80 CR. So, the difference between that would be the 20 CR is the revenue shortfall, would be called as a revenue shortfall. And whatever is the revenue shortfall, mind you, whatever is the revenue shortfall, 100% of this revenue shortfall would be provided by the central government. 100% of the revenue shortfall would be provided by the center. This is basically the concept of GST compensation. This is how GST compensation is calculated and provided by the center to the states. Now, some of you will ask a question here, sir, according to the formula or according to your calculation, the collected GST is lesser than the expected. What if it is vice versa? What if it is vice versa? That is, the expected was 100 CR according to the formula and the collected is, let us say, 130 CR. In such case, will the center take away the taxes? Absolutely no. Center will not pay any kind of a compensation here for a very simple reason. There is no revenue losses if the state is getting more than what is the number according to the formula. So, the base year was 2015 and 16 and whatever taxes were collected by the states which were later subsumed under GST, the revenue was considered as a base, and from one year to next year we would keep on increasing it by 14%. The revenue would keep on increasing by 14%, and if the collected revenue is lesser than the revenue according to the formula, that would be the revenue shortfall. The gap would be the revenue shortfall and 100% of it would be provided by the center. Now, next important point, if the center wants to provide this GST compensation, center should be having certain amount of revenue here, center should be having certain amount of money to pay for it, and that is the precise reason certain commodities, certain goods which were taxed under the slab of 28%, the highest rate under GST, a slab rate of 28%, certain commodities were identified, certain goods were identified such as tobacco products, alcoholic products, or not alcoholic products because the GST is not applicable on alcohol used for a human consumption because that would be taxed under the state government. So, tobacco products, aerated beverages or cars for that matter, etc. were identified. In addition to 28% GST, the government would impose GST compensation cess, collect the cess and use this cess to provide compensation to the states. Now, initially this model worked out very well, but then came the pandemic. During pandemic, what happened was the amount of GST collected by the states because of the contraction in the economy, because of the impact of the pandemic, the amount of money collected by the states actually went down, and according to the formula, the expected amount of GST to be collected went up. So, the gap between both of them increased, the revenue shortfall increased, and the revenue shortfall was so high that the amount of cess which was collected by the center, it was not sufficient to pay for compensation. And that is precisely the reason why the central government borrowed certain amount of money, that is in the financial year 21, center borrowed 1.1 lakh crore rupees, used it to pay for compensation to the states. And again in the next financial year, that is in the 22, again the borrowing of 1.59 lakh crore rupees was done to pay for compensation. Essentially, the government borrowed 2.69 lakh crore rupees during the period of pandemic to pay for compensation. Now, next important point, the compensation is supposed to be provided only for the duration of 5 years. That is, from the date of implementation, only for the next 5 years, the compensation will be paid by the center. So, the GST came into force from 1st July 2017, 1st July 2017, and the 5 years will essentially mean 30th June 2022, 30th June 2022. So, the central government for 5 years has paid the compensation. For example, if you look at the table, how much is the compensation paid by the center for financial year 19, 20, 21, 22 and a certain period of 23, it is given here. The total amount of compensation that the center has paid for the duration of 5 years is 9.14 lakh crore rupees, 9.14 lakh crore rupees. So, after 30th June 2022, exactly 5 years with implementation of GST, or since the implementation of GST, center stopped providing the GST compensation to the states, stopped providing GST compensation. But mind you, center did not stop imposing GST compensation cess. They continued imposing GST compensation cess, and according to the provision right now, till the end of 31st March, till the end of 31st March 2026, the GST compensation cess will continue to be imposed and collected, and this amount will be used to repay the loans that were taken by the government of India during the pandemic. So, I hope all of you are clear with the argument here. 5-year duration is over, but the center has continued to impose and collect cess. That amount of cess that is collected till the 31st March 2026 will be used to repay the loans that the center has taken during the pandemic period. And the loans were taken for what purpose? To basically pay compensation to the states even during the pandemic. Now, in the GST Council, there are certain discussions. Certain states want the center to continue to provide compensation because they are not happy with the amount of GST receipts they are earning annually. So, to address all of these issues, that is, what should we do with the GST compensation cess or GST cess after the end of 31st March 2026? What should we do? To look into all of these matters, now the GST Council has decided to set up a group of ministers which is headed by the Minister of State on Finance, that is Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary. So, this is what is there in the discussion regarding the concept of GST compensation and GST compensation cess in the last 1.5 days. Now, based on the discussion, let me solve a MCQ here, and if you want to solve the question by yourself, please pause the video because I will give you the solution now. Pause the video, solve it, and then you can listen to the explanation. Consider the following statements regarding GST compensation. Center had guaranteed the compensation to the states for revenues shortfall under GST for a period of 5 years. Yes. For the calculation, the tax revenues collected in 11 and 12 were taken as a base. For compensation, no, not 11 and 12, 15 and 16. The government imposes a cess on all the products to collect revenues to pay compensation. This is also wrong. Only certain commodities, certain goods such as sin goods or the demerit goods or certain luxury products, not all the goods. So, first statement is true, second and third are wrong. Right option will be option B. Only 2 statements out of the 3 are correct. So, this is the discussion I wanted to do with all of you regarding the concept of GST compensation which is there in the current affairs. Lot of initiatives have been launched by us. All of these initiatives is to help you basically prepare for the civil services examination, and more importantly ensure that this channel is a one-stop destination for all of your current affairs requirements. If you like all of these initiatives, do hit the like button and do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Thank you. Have a great day.